The HOA president stood at the end of my dock, clipboard in hand, barking orders like she owned the water beneath her feet. "This boat must be removed immediately," she said, waving a citation in the air. But here's what she didn't know. The lake she was threatening me on was mine. I'd spent years watching this HOA bully neighbors, fine families, and even ban kids from fishing. So when they came for me, accusing me of violating marina code, I decided to play their game. By the time I was done, their entire HOA fishing club was evicted from my lake. I moved to Clearwater Estates 3 years ago, a supposedly exclusive lakeside community tucked between rolling hills and tall pines. It looked peaceful on the surface. Quiet roads, neat lawns, and sunset reflections on the water. But beneath that calm was an HOA with an ego problem. They called themselves the Clearwater Preservation Board, but what they really preserved was control. You couldn't plant the wrong color flowers, couldn't park a truck overnight, and God forbid your grass grew an inch too tall. Still, I thought I'd be safe. My small property sat at the far edge of the neighborhood, separated from the rest by a narrow stream. I had a private dock, a modest fishing boat, and a deed that included the entire lower half of the lake. That ownership wasn't symbolic. It was legal. My grandfather had bought this land long before the HOA existed. When they built the newer section of Clearwater around the upper lake, they never noticed that the water boundary split in two. The HOA owned the north side, I owned the south, and that difference, just a few hundred yards of water, would soon spark a war. For the first year, everything was calm. I'd take my boat out early mornings, fish in the mist, wave politely to anyone across the lake. But the peace started to crack when a new HOA president, Linda Summers, took charge. Linda wasn't just power-hungry, she was obsessed. She launched cleanup campaigns, banned certain kayaks for aesthetic reasons, and even enforced curfews on lake access. I ignored it. I wasn't part of her HOA. Then one morning, I found an envelope taped to my dock post. "You are in violation of Clearwater Code 4A, unauthorized watercraft storage. Immediate removal required." I laughed at first. It was absurd. My boat wasn't even in their jurisdiction. But what started as a laugh soon turned into a storm. Within a week, the HOA escalated. First came the daily letters, printed warnings accusing me of unauthorized mooring and unsanctioned fishing operations. Then came the fines, actual printed invoices with threats of liens and community penalties. I ignored them all, but that only fueled Linda's fire. She began sending maintenance crews to my dock, claiming they were performing inspections. I caught one of them taking pictures of my property line. Another tried to untie my boat for safety reasons. I filed a police report for trespassing, but the officer could only warn them. Linda claimed confusion about boundaries. Then came her boldest move yet. One weekend, while I was visiting family, she had the HOA's fishing club set up a massive event. Tents, grills, banners, all over the southern bank of the lake. My land. When I returned, my yard was trampled, beer cans floated by the dock, and a HOA members-only sign hung from a tree. That was the moment I snapped. The arrogance was breathtaking. They truly thought they owned it all. So I called a surveyor. Within 2 days, I had aerial maps, county deeds, and a notarized property certificate proving beyond question. I owned the entire southern half of Clearwater Lake, dock, water, and shoreline. The HOA had been trespassing for months. I sent Linda a registered letter enclosing the documents. I thought she'd back off. Instead, she doubled down, accusing me of forging records and disrupting community harmony. Then she did something truly insane. She called the county zoning department and reported my boat as an illegal structure. That's when I decided, no more warnings. It was time for a lesson in ownership and consequences. On the day the zoning officer came, Linda showed up too, smug as ever, surrounded by HOA board members with clipboards. They looked like they were about to seize a pirate ship. But I had prepared. When the officer stepped onto my dock, I greeted him with a binder, neatly organized, highlighted, and tabbed. Inside were county plats, survey maps, and the original deed from 1968, complete with official seals. The officer spent 10 minutes flipping through it before turning to Linda. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "this property, including this dock and this section of the lake, is entirely private. It's not part of the Clearwater HOA." Linda blinked. "That can't be right." He gestured to the documents. "It's right here. The HOA boundary ends at the northern bend. Everything south of that line belongs to Mr. Dawson." She went pale. "And," he added, "if your fishing club has been using this area without permission, that's technically trespassing." The board members started whispering, faces reddening. One even backed away from the dock. Linda stammered, We had no idea." But I did. I knew exactly how deep their arrogance went. The officer finished his inspection, shook my hand, and advised Linda to review her jurisdiction before issuing further complaints. The next day, I delivered certified notices to every HOA member who had been using my property. Eviction from lake access, effective immediately. No more club fishing, no more HOA events, no more patrols or inspections. The lake, my lake, was officially off limits, and to make it formal, I installed a sign at the entrance to the South Shore. Private lakefront property, non-HOA zone. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Linda's fishing club disbanded within a week. The following weeks were eerily quiet. No HOA letters, no drones, no inspections. The only sounds were wind and water. For the first time since I'd moved in, I could actually enjoy the peace I'd bought. But karma wasn't done with Linda. Apparently, word of her jurisdiction mistake spread fast. HOA members demanded answers, furious that she'd cost them lake privileges and embarrassed the board. At the next meeting, she faced a vote of no confidence. She resigned under pressure, citing personal reasons. The new HOA president sent me a polite letter. Not a threat, just a thank you. He admitted most of the members had no idea my land was ever outside their control. A few even asked for permission to fish again, this time with written approval. I said yes, to the respectful ones. The rest? Still banned. And me? I bought a bigger boat. Painted the side of it with 3 words. No HOA zone. Sometimes I see former board members across the water staring bitterly from their perfectly trimmed lawns. And I just smile. Because nothing frustrates people like that more than someone they can't control. The lake shimmers like freedom now. Calm, vast, and untouchable. They tried to rule over it, and ended up exiled from it. So, what do you think? Should HOAs have any say beyond their property lines? Or do people like this deserve to lose their power when they overstep?